Why?
Why not? I think every band has to, as soon as it gets the chance, it has to release the greatest hits just to make some new friends and make people aware that it is a major band and not a cult item. I really don't like the reputation of being a cult act. I think if what you do is good, then it's not only a challenge, but it's a responsibility to spread it to as many people as possible.
Are you more satisfied with a slight case of overwhelming than the other compilation album, Some Girls Wonder by Mistake?
Oh yeah, Some Girls Wonder by Mistake I've always described as kind of like baby photos. It's like a collection of baby photos. Interesting for the people that already know you, but you wouldn't want to show your baby photos to a stranger. Whereas the greatest hits is something that you definitely would want to show to a stranger.
Really your favourite song, the one you have compiled from your album?
No, I do tend to prefer the more... I tend to prefer the less bombastic songs. But I'm smart enough to know that the record company can't sell loads of singles, which is one of the reasons the record's called A Slight Case of Overbombing. It does tend to represent the more bombastic side of the band, I think. And so some of my favourite songs are more indirectly powerful. We've written a lot of songs, or I've written a lot of songs which I thought could be hits in the same way that REM have hits, but I can't get my record company, particularly in Britain, I can't get them to understand that I am Michael Stipe and not Ozzy Osbourne. Really, like you asked me that kind of question, it really isn't something I think about. You know, if I see someone dressed like the kind of people you're describing, if I see someone like that standing at a bus stop, I don't react to it any more than I would seeing a housewife at the bus stop. I really don't feel connected to it. I don't feel really...
Quite a few times, for example, on Floodland, you have been dealing with political things, with Mother Russia. Is your interest for politics still as big as...
Yeah, I think it's important. And as an artist, I tend to interpret politics through the details of everyday life. I'm not very good at singing slogans. On the occasions where I do sing slogans like Mother Russia, rain down, 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 that's as much of a metaphor as any direct political statement. But I am a political animal, and I think it's important that people pay attention to what's going on around them. People that say to me, we're not interested in politics, to me they're just people who accept what goes on around them, and I find it very difficult to accept that without commenting or without wishing to change it. And I've always tried to make records for the world as it is. That's why I maybe have a reputation as a pessimist or a cynic. I don't regard myself as either of those two things. I regard myself as a realist. I've always tried to make records that reflect the real world. It's tough, but that's not a dark point of view. That's just realistic, and I've always tried to write songs which show you how you can have fun in a tough world, and how you can find that path through the minefield. You know?
At the same time, there is humor in your songs as well. There's things that you can laugh.
I think it's an important weapon, humor. And I think it is important to laugh. It's important to... It's a 20th century aesthetic, and I think everybody has an appreciation of the absurd. But that appreciation is particularly well developed in English people. We have a lot of ways of expressing that which aren't common to other local cultures. You know, most of our television humour involves extreme violence. And we find that very funny. I like songs that I think if you can make a song mean something, then why not? It's cowardly to back away from that challenge, I think. Apart from which it's what I'm best at, so why should I give up making songs that mean something? One of the great things about this band, why it's still going, or why the whole idea of the Sisters still means something, is that we do reach people in a different way to most bands. We might not mean as much to as many people, but we mean more to the people that we reach. And I think there's a place for bands like that. I have no problem with Roxette. I have no problem with a band that writes great tunes for the maximum number of people, but that's not what I do. What I do is I write songs that mean more, and I accept the fact that I reach less people. I try, especially with records like A Slight Case of Overbombing, I try and reach more people. But ultimately, if I have to choose between reaching more people or reaching a few people deeper, I will choose to reach a few people deeper. Dialogue going on in the song between the female voice and the male voice. Not because they're female or male, I don't regard that as particularly important, but the dialogue is clearly two-sided because the sounds of the voices are so different. Because I sing baritone and Terry has a voice like an angel. My answer does involve serious use of weaponry. But that's kind of like a metaphor because I thought her vocal on it was great. So I used the original demo because I don't see the point in re-recording something if it's already so great to start with. So I edited it. I changed the bass and the drums and the keyboards around that were already on there a little bit. I got a friend of mine from Leeds to put some electric guitars on and then sang my stuff. So the original version sounds kind of like a sort of a Jennifer Rush song, I suppose, and the new version sounds like Jennifer Rush from hell.
You've been living in Hamburg now for 9 years, the longest time you ever spent in the city.
Yeah.
Why don't you want to come back to Britain?
Because it's fucked up. Maybe I'll move back there full time when the government changes, or when the next few governments have started repairing the damage that Thatcher did. But the current government won't repair that damage. If anything, they're making it worse. Britain just doesn't work anymore. It's hard to live there because the infrastructure is broken, and particularly now that I can see Britain from the outside, I'm even more aware of what's wrong with it, and that does make me very angry. I would change it by offering to be mayor, but at the moment I can't see anybody voting for me. Maybe in 10 years or so, when I look like a mature, responsible adult.
Andrew, are you a person who is hard to deal with? I mean, like, you split with the first edition of Sisters of Mercy and then with Wayne Hassett.
Yeah, there's only a couple of people that have ever been in the band that I'm not still friends with. These things are exaggerated by the press. And I think a lot of ex-members try and create a conflict maybe just to keep themselves interesting when they're not doing very much, in the same way that musicians are generally the kind of people that are very easily encouraged by lawyers to make work for lawyers. They're very easily led because they don't really know the business and because they haven't got anything better to do when they leave the band. But I'm friends with almost everybody that was ever in the band. And most of the people that were in the band for quite a while. Most bands don't exist very long. This band's been together for 13 years in one shape or another. So it's not really a history of conflict. We're just a little bit more open and honest about our internal conflicts, the internal conflicts that any band has. And because I'm not very good with the media, I'm not very good at answering the criticisms of me, or because I'm too busy doing something. And so certain rumours tend to gather strength with any meaning into them. And the other big issue was the whole issue of lifestyle. Those guys all loved to be on tour and they really didn't like doing anything else, and for me it was exactly the opposite.
You like the studio better, and...
Yeah, I really don't like being on tour. Playing concerts is one thing, I can just about handle that. But being on tour I find it really dehumanizing. And there are things that I prefer to do. And because I can do those other things, I choose to do those other things.
Wayne's formal writing is too hippish for you, like flowers and gardens.
Yes, I have a problem with his imagery, but mostly I have a problem with the fact that his songs don't mean anything, and they're not intended to mean anything.
You think you will still keep on going, work on your own, because as I can see, you're fascinated with the modern technique in making music? Or
yeah, I love writing songs and I love making records, and as long as the peripheral activities don't get too boring or too frustrating, then I shall keep doing that. Yeah. When I next get the chance, I'm going to go home, think about some new songs. I'm going to start doing that on my own. If I write the kind of songs that sound like I need help from outside, then I'll work with other people. Otherwise, I'll keep working on my own for the next album. I don't really know until the songs for the next record take shape what kind of people I'm going to have to work with, if any.
Someone you want to work with?
Not particularly. No. Not for a whole album. I mean, there are certain people I'd like to work with for maybe one single. There are producers that I would like to work with, that I would like to try working with, and there are singers that I'd quite like to make one song with. But as far as the band goes, I think I want to see what the songs ask for before I make those kind of